This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games.
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
Anthony for three. Bang!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ruckus and the Menace Sports Podcast, episode number 89. I am Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
And I'm Spence the Menace.
And on this episode, we'll be going over the starting lineup, as usual. The good, bad, and ugly of the Clint Eastwood segment. The high heat. And more high heat. And then we go to our stud and dud of the week. So, Spanish, how are we doing?
Not too bad. I mean, I think kind of explains itself that was in a little bit of an illness state this past week, as my voice is not fully back, but back enough that I'm here doing this episode.
Yep, and I'm doing all right myself. Work has been busy, but other than that, before we get any further into the episode, let's do a semi-quick moment of silence and prayer for those involved in last week's shooting at the Chiefs championship parade. All right, thank you. All right, so let's get. Do we want to start with the baseball moves, NFL, or the miscellaneous?
Kind of start with a little bit of the miscellaneous here to kind of warm us up a little bit here.
All right.
Because we may get into a little bit of the debating on some of these other pieces along the way. But the Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhaney owned Wrexham picked up a win over the weekend and has put them into the position of automatic promotion to League Two in England. The Welsh team that was picked up by them, and of course in their docuseries Welcome to Wrexham, it's chronicled the time that these two actors have brought this team into somewhat of a prominence, and getting them to League Two, that would be another. Actually, that would put them into League One if they get promoted, which puts them just 2 tiers away from getting up into the Prem. Will they get to the Prem? Probably not. But have they been playing extremely well over the last good bit of time that getting up there has shown that it's looking like it could be possible? Absolutely. And then Iowa's Caitlin Clark, who has 1 year of eligibility left, has set the NCAA women's basketball mark for scoring in her game against Michigan, where she finished with 49 in a 106-89 victory. She scored the first 8 points to set the mark, and the record-setting shot was a long-range three from just past half court. Like, she crossed the half-court line, pulled it up like Dame, and it went in.
All right.
And she is one of those people that we know can shoot the basketball, but we will get to those that can shoot the basketball maybe not much later, but later enough that we can kind of move to some other things for the moment. And we will go right into baseball, where Ruckus will take it away.
All right, so for our baseball stuff for the pod, we have Mr. Robert Manfred to retire from being commissioner of MLB in 2029, as his contract, I believe, expires then.
At least it's something along those lines.
Which, to me, I don't know how much effect that has on the MLB as a whole, but I know Fuzzy has some issues with that, with him doing that, but that's here nor there. And then the Padres.
I think him giving his definitive timeline is kind of not the worst thing. I mean, he's showing it as like he's not there to commission for a long time. He's here for just a good time.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the next commissioner can bring the good elements of what Manfred brought, but then not necessarily bring the like vibe killing elements that he brought.
Yeah.
Like kind of see more of the good than the bad.
Except for the Fanatics jerseys, but we'll talk about that maybe another time.
I mean the new Nike stuff isn't horrid. But it's brought some mixed reaction. It's like he's kind of just been bringing things that have brought mixed reviews to the mix.
Yep. And then the Padres have decided to move Xander Bogaerts to second base, and we'll have Ha-Seong Kim at short. So that'll be an interesting little switch there.
Ha-Seong Kim is a speedier shortstop, it looks like, so I think they're trying to go with a little more range on that end. I'm pretty sure that the Padres have a solid third baseman, so that's why they moved Bogaerts to second. But it puts a little
Manny at short at 1.2 before they had Tatis full time at short.
Well, Tatis, I think, has now moved to the outfield. But the Padres do have right now a stupid abundance of guys that can play the infield.
Yeah.
And
then Jorge Soler signs with the San Francisco Giants on, I believe, a 3-year deal of some sort.
And I believe he will be a DH for the Giants, kind of playing where Jock Peterson left his void. But I think that Soler for the Giants could be a big benefit, especially at the DH role.
We'll just have to see what happens there. And then an update on the Jackie Robinson statue that we've talked about for many weeks on end. We have now found
It's been the last 3 weeks. It's been the last 3 weeks. It really hasn't been that much.
Anyways, the people involved in the statue theft were found, and the motive was for scrap metal money.
Yeah, because people be wanting to scrap metal for money. That's exactly... I mean, not the first time we've seen that be a possibility. Won't be the last. And I think they've gotten a good amount of like GoFundMe campaigns to try and get the statue redone. I think they still had like the template that they could just rebuild. Like it eventually is going to get redone.
I just think of, when I think of Wichita, I don't really think of like the greatest area. Whenever I think of that, I went to college at Wichita State, and that area surrounding the campus, like if you go outwards of the campus maybe like a few blocks, it looks pretty rough. So like when I
when I think of Wichita State, I honestly am thinking of their men's bowling program.
I thought as it was a basketball program.
The bowling program there is like, that is the chef's kiss of all chef's kiss of bowling programs. PBA bowlers, come out of there. Chris Barnes, his son, is a senior there at Wichita State right now, and has hit some stuff on the pro tour. I believe I think one of PB3's sons was also there at Wichita State. Sean Rash was an alum. So Wichita State is a perennial, like pretty much year in, year out, they're winning the men's bowling title.
You also don't want to
at the
sleep
college
on
level.
their basketball program because that's where Fred
don't get
Van
me
Vliet
wrong,
came through and Ron Baker.
They had a run. I know that. I'm just talking the year in, year out on such a smaller sport level for them.
Yeah. All right, do we want to go into the NFL?
Yep. And we did not get to it last week. We're sorry. But we are talking about the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2024 being announced during that NFL Honors. And the modern day representatives included Dwight Freeney, Patrick Willis, and Andre Johnson, highlighting.
A pepper named Julius.
And Julius Peppers was really good. I love Dwight Freeney in Indianapolis. And then Patrick Willis, a short career, but a good one. And then Andre Johnson was such a model of consistency of a receiver for the Texans. So I think those couple of names are huge. And actually, the other name that I did not put in here, primarily because he is the first primary kick returner for it, or kick returner pretty much. Devin Hester also made it into the Hall. Yes, Devin Hester, the one who returned the Super Bowl kickoff against the Colts and when Prince did Purple Rain.
In the rain.
For a touchdown. In the rain, yeah. But that rain there was not purple. Unless it was stage lit that way. But all that aside, we now can go into the Eastwood segments.
All right, here we go. All right. So, what is good this week, Mr. Spinnis?
Get your revolvers out, because there was some deadly accurate shooting going on.
It's not even high noon, Spinnis. What are you talking about? Sheesh. Okay, now it's high noon. Draw.
Well, I knew where you were going with that, and it had to come down to a draw. But I was talking the 3-point contest events at the NBA Allstar Weekend, especially Stephen Curry versus Sabrina Ionescu. The 3-point contest has been the best event of All-Star Weekend, bar none. And why? Because every single evolution that they've done to it, including the money rack and having the players be able to decide where it goes, the starry range shot to earn a couple of extra points in a couple of deep 3-point locations, and now with, of course, the Stephen and Sabrina thing, showing that even the women can shoot at a dominant fashion from the men's distance, even with their own basketballs. So the signature art of shooting a basketball has evolved over the last 5 years, if not more. And it's being taken to these new heights. And I think the Stephen and Sabrina thing was done in such a healthy way, with the two being incredibly mutually respectful, that I would want to see more of this, and on an even larger scale. Have Sabrina bring 4 of the best 3-point shooters from the WNBA. Have Stephen Curry bring along like Klay Thompson, Devin Booker, and another notable 3-point shooter, and you've got yourself a 4-on-4 style tournament. That
Sure,
you can
I agree.
that you can play around with. Like, it is such a thing that is healthy for the game of basketball.
I think if Caitlin Clark were to declare for the NBA, this would be a big hype up. If you got Steph Curry versus Caitlin Clark, and then or you
Like, you even bring.
What if you did a head-to-head where it's like
I think you
dude
bring
versus
in.
dude versus
I think you still bring in
girl versus
Nescu.
girl?
You still bring in Nescu.
Yeah, I'm
Still bring
not
in
saying
Nescu
that
in
you
there.
don't. I'm not saying that you take her out. I'm saying, what if you made it Steph versus another NBA guy, and then Sabrina versus Caitlin Clark? What if you did that, and then kind of like?
Oh, I think even though you would get that in the WNBA no matter what, I would love to see the head-to-head between the men and the women anyway. Like,
Yeah,
you bring
but what
that
if
as
you
a
did
showcase.
your best man versus your best woman, and then you faced off, kind of like you did with this, but you make it more of like who faces who.
Oh yeah, just like you would in like your high school basketball showcases, and sometimes even in those, even the girl would beat the guy. Like, that is what basketball is.
It'd be cool if they ever did a
Especially in
knockout
terms
game
of shooting a
too.
basketball, this showed, and especially because Sabrina Ionescu was shooting from the NBA line, scored as much as the winner from the actual shootout. And Sabrina said it best. If you could shoot, you could shoot.
I think it would also be cool if they did like a knockout round too, like
I
you
think
know the game of
that'd be
knockout
interesting
is.
as well. But I think that they've got the 3-point shoot, like, they've got the contest down to such a way that you've got the players thinking, where's my best spot to shoot? I'll put my money rack there. And then they just have to focus on shooting with range and accuracy. Even the actual 3-point shootout was coming down to Damian Lillard having to be within like an inch or two. And then being able to hit the last shot when it mattered. So I am all for any sort of 3-point contest events for the All-Star Weekend, because the contest has shown that it is at its healthiest right now. Because, granted, yeah, anybody can shoot a basketball, but not just anybody can shoot the basketball in the way that it takes to shoot a 3-point contest. And I'll let you go ahead and take on what was not so good this week. And
Nope. So what was bad in sports this week was Jimmy John Stamos was suspended 2 games for violating the NFL's PED policy, and even worse, the Raiders decided to think it was a good idea
cut it out.
They literally are going to release Jimmy John Stamos after the suspended 2 games. So, oof. I guess that's a big oof.
Thus, they decided to cut it out.
I guess it was the beaver tranquilizers, like in dodgeball, but my god.
You're kind of missing where I'm going with this.
Yeah, he was cut out.
But the other notable person with that was Joey Gladstone, Dave Coulier, where he does the whole thing with his hands, just cut it out.
Yep.
Sorry, I was sitting on that one.
All right, but what were we not sitting on?
Apparently, the 2-2 fastball that was going right across the inside corner that was nowhere near touchable.
Oh, I was talking about the ugly.
I wasn't. But Rick Pitino and just his writing of the ultimate diss track on his own St. John's men's basketball team. Calling
Yes,
him
the hat
unenjoyable.
backwards is a thing that is probably a good picture in your head with the hat backwards or sideways.
So talking about him taking 2 months to learn bounce passes. And this is what the program that once brought Chris Mullin into the NBA has resorted themselves to? I think Chris Mullin is probably right now rolling on his cell phone right now because, or at least has an unsteady discourse involved with it because this is his alma mater.
He's just sitting there blue at a bar, and the bartender's like, "Hey man, why the long face?" And he's just like, I don't want to talk about it.
But yes, we were watching the Rick Pitino stuff back and just called him a non-athletic basketball team.
It's been a very unenjoyable season.
What? Like, if you're a basketball player, why would you be considered non-athletic unless you basically were not recruiting basketball players?
Dude, that reminded me of like the movie Any Given Sunday with Al Pacino. Like Rick Pitino almost kind of looks like Pacino in a sense, like a little bit, like the nose and everything, but like
Except just not as impressive. He's not as impressive. Like Pacino, if you get Pacino really into it, Pacino's really into it.
Say hello. I guess Rick Pitino didn't say hello to my little friend right as he took them onto the court at St. John's. They're all like, okay, whatevs, man. Like, maybe Rick Pitino's unenjoyable. I mean, he did.
I
have
mean,
that
at
whole
this
FBI
point right now,
investigation.
he's about as unenjoyable and as stuttery as Christopher Walken.
You gotta click, you gotta walk, you gotta talk, you gotta zing, you gotta zag. I don't know. I was trying to sound like Christopher Walken, but I probably did a really bad job. I liked that Super Bowl commercial, by the way, that they did of him.
And the only prescription is no more Rick Pitino coaching rants.
Hey! Oh!
Although the real prescription is more cowbell.
Yes.
The prescription in this case is no more Rick Pitino coaching rants.
Oh! Dude, did you love that Super Bowl commercial though with Christopher Walken?
The Christopher Walken, yeah, that commercial was really good. I knew that was going to be something as soon as I saw Christopher Walken. But let's now get down to a little bit of business with the high heat.
I know very hot.
Yeah, and I feel like we're flying through things quickly, but at the same time, this is really the first episode that's kind of just after the football wrap up, and we really kind of didn't have a ton to kind of talk ourselves through, so we can kind of really take our time with this.
Yep, and Sunday was more of like a relaxing, okay, I have extra time to just do whatever, rather than, oh shit, like there's a game coming on at 3, or oh no, Sunday Night Football, well, crap. Like,
So it's kind of a little bit of a change of pace for us.
Yeah, not too bad.
So, our MLB offseason recap and grades. This is not, and I'm saying this as a disclaimer. This is not the MLB preview. That is not going to be for another 3 or more weeks, because we will break this down a little bit further as we get into the American and National Leagues later on in March. However, this is recapping the entire offseason and how these teams kind of really did some things.
Mm-hmm.
The
right.
best move overall.
Well, I'm going to go first, and I'm going to say Ohtani for 10 years and nothing million for the Dodgers, because he's literally saving that money that the Dodgers are going to spend on him for later, kind of like Bobby Bonilla back in the day with the New York
Bobby
Mets.
Bonilla. Oh yeah, Bobby Bonilla was that agent was such a genius with that contract, and we still have about a little bit of time left until that deal completes itself.
I'm just gonna say Bonilla for the meme now, even though that's not how you pronounce his name. Anyways, so let's go ahead.
For me, while Ruckus kind of took the deal that I think ultimately destroyed free agency and busted the block as we know it.
No, Scott Boras did that. I'm sorry.
I mean, Scott Boras does that anyway. Scott, there are 3 things that you would expect in life: death, taxes, and Scott Boras free agent signing last.
That's the title of this episode.
Okay. Now that the digression has been set aside, the Orioles selling the team and then getting Corbin Burnes in a trade just 2 days later. The Orioles, though probably the bullpen might have been their bigger concern, getting a starter for their rotation was probably about equally as paramount. And in also only having to send DL Hall in order to do it, I think that the Orioles are onto something. Even though they are right now probably the biggest Catan players in the league right now, I think they are onto something with getting Corbin Burnes into that rotation. And then we've already made fun of our worst moves overall at this point and talking about Scott Boras. Thanks, Ruckus, for getting about a half a step ahead of yourself.
Oh, you're welcome.
Congratulations.
I like it, like the show says. I'm always causing a ruckus. I don't know why this is a surprise. But yeah, our worst move overall is the Scott Boras clients, because Blake Snell hasn't been signed, your boy Cody Bellinger hasn't been signed, and
Matt Chapman.
And Matt Chapman has not been signed yet. And I saw a rumor on MLB.com that apparently Snell has a potential contract with the Yankees, but who doesn't? Death, taxes, and getting signed to the Yankees.
Who doesn't? Oh my.
I mean, seriously, like literally the last team they can go to is either the A's or the Yankees. Like, it's like whenever like they talk about how like pop stars and singers and entertainers go to Vegas to die with their contract. It's like going to the Yankees. Like after you've been to all these other teams and you've gone into your prime, and then you go to the Yankees to kind of die off. Right? Am I wrong?
Most of the time with the Yankees, if you're thinking the Yankees, you're generally going there to win to try and win a championship.
And then die.
Well, and then try to be heralded as a Yankee legend, but that's more so only reserved for the good homegrown ones, and maybe the occasional player that comes in late.
Anyways.
But other than that, we now will move on to the best extension for a player that stayed put.
Spoiler
And
alert. Go ahead.
Did you say
Dennis.
spoiler alert?
Yes, because I'm just being dumb. Do you want to go first?
Well, mine was probably pretty well stated. That mine is Jose Altuve staying in Houston as the heart and soul of that franchise. I think that there was probably no other place for Altuve to go other than Houston and feel super satisfied with his career. I know people hate on him entirely too much because I still believe that Altuve had very little to do, even though he was on the team. But I believe the numbers showed that he also had the least amount of help given to him in 2017. But that is all beside the point. But that Altuve has stuck with it, and that Altuve has remained loyal to the soil of the Houston Astros and not completely being deluded and dealing with every single boo bird that came his way in stride. I think Altuve could very well make Cooperstown.
I think the only really big issue that Altuve had was trying to reach the Cocoa Puffs in the cereal aisle. Aaron Judge probably had to help him with that, you know. Have you seen the height comparison between Altuve and Judge? Like, it's not even like a question how like much taller Judge is to Altuve.
Yeah, I'm taller than Jose Altuve. I'm 6 foot. Jose Altuve. I was taller than Jose Altuve when I was in the 8th grade. I was taller than Mookie Betts when I was in high school. Mookie Betts is only 5'9".
Oh, damn. Yeah, I'm probably a couple inches taller than Mookie at that point then.
Wait, how tall are you, Ruckus?
Like about 6 foot.
Yeah, I'm probably about 6 to 6'1", so yeah, I've been taller than Jose Altuve since the 8th grade.
So the spoiler alert joke that I was going to make is my best extension for a player staying put is Bobby Witt Jr. because I am a Royals fan at heart, but also yeah, we'll get into my Royals stuff later, my opinions, my very strong
You forgot
opinions.
the Bobby voice. You forgot the Hank Hill voice when
God
you were going
Bobby.
Bobby. Because we just go because even when we were doing our MLB The Show stuff and like playing with it, we were just going Bobby.
Bobby. Oh. All right. Best move for a player changing teams. I put Corbin Burns to the Orioles because I think he has a better shot there than with the Brewers.
I actually, though this answer is probably clearly Corbin Burns, the one that I really wanted to talk about in this spot was actually Josh Hader going to Houston. A left-handed reliever for the Astros. I think it'll make the Astros interesting. And the AL West is going to be a pretty well-battled divisional race between the Astros and Rangers for sure. And Hader being added into the mix, especially as the closer, and they move Ryan Presley into the setup, it puts more in the Astros' hands to kind of mold with and shape themselves for the great season that could be ahead for them. as they've shown year in and year out the consistency of their success. Some of our most intriguing teams heading into opening day. We each picked 3, but none of them were the same.
I'm gonna do my theory right now. Mariners, because they bolstered their infield. They bolstered a good amount of stuff going forward. The Yankees, they went all out pretty much on their outfield by getting Juan Soto and then also adding a little piece of Alex Verdugo and Grisham. And then the Braves, they kind of are sticking to their formula of bringing young and old talent to the Braves. And Chris Sale is over there now after a trade between the Red Sox and Braves. So that'll be interesting to see what role he plays. He might become a late starter, or maybe he goes into the bullpen role. We'll see. Spennis, what do you got for your 3?
My first one here is the Cincinnati Reds. Though there is a retiring Joey Votto, you do have some notable names involved. Spencer Steer, Jonathan India, Ellie De La Cruz, Noelvi Marte, Tyler Stevenson. And then on top of that, you've got Christian Encarnacion Strand, who's on the bench as well, Jake Fraley. And then the rotation of Hunter Green, Graham Ashcraft, Frankie Montas, Andrew Abbott, Nick Martinez, Lucas Sims in the pen, Brent Suter. So you have and Alexis Diaz. Different options for the Reds as a whole. There's a couple of different players that are on their prospect list that could make their way up. I think that the Reds could be a very intriguing proposition for some noise, especially with the great players that they have. The next one I have is the Arizona Diamondbacks. Why? They just got to the World Series in a very, very stunning fashion. Why not see if the intrigue is, can they do it again, even with a few minor changes that they added? You've got Corbin Carroll, the reigning Rookie of the Year, Ketel Marte still, Jock Peterson as a new addition, Eugenio Suarez, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is still there, Geraldo Perdomo,
Eduardo Rodriguez.
Well, you've got Erod in the rotation with Zach Allen and Merrill Kelly at the top, and then Brandon Pfaadt. Jace Peterson's there, Randall Grichuk. And then that bullpen with Mantiply and Seawald. And so they have enough pieces around that I think the Diamondbacks could be even better than where they were last year, potentially. And then the last one is there's always some interest in what Boston can bring to the table. With Jared Doran and Dory, Carita, and Rafael Devers, Tristan Casas and how he becomes a first baseman, Trevor Story and being able to come back from injury, Masataka Yoshida, and actually a major thing for Boston was Tyler O'Neill coming over from St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And then Vaughn Grissom as well from the Braves.
In that Sale trade.
In the Chris Sale trade. So there's enough there that could make this interesting. The rotation, especially with Giolito at the top, is a very interesting proposition. And then Nick Pivetta and Brian Bello and Cutter Crawford. And then you have right there at the top main tops of the bullpen, Kenley Jansen, Chris Martin, Liam Hendricks on the DL or on the injured list, and then Brian Mata is somebody who could be a very interesting piece for the future. Garrett Whitlock is a Rule 5 pick from the Yankees in 2020 that we were able to acquire. So I think the Boston Red Sox could be a very low-key sleeper in certain circumstances going that way. But then, who are the teams that could come out of nowhere and surprise us?
All right, here's my three. I'm gonna go with the Kansas City Royals, the Detroit Tigers, and the Blue Jays. The Royals because they lost over 100 games last season, and I think they could probably do a little bit better. I don't know by how much, but they could be a surprise. The Tigers just got they signed some decent free agents, but I don't know how far they will get with those free agents. And then as far as the Blue Jays go, they got rid of Whit Merrifield, so that's a plus in my book. But they still had to prove that they can possibly get a wild card spot and get to the playoff. We'll just have to see. Anyways, Menace.
The first one that I'm going to throw to you is the Cleveland Guardians. They're a team that still, even though they look like they haven't done anything, they kind of still look somewhat functional. With Steven Kwan and Andres Jimenez and Jose Ramirez, Ramon Laureano, Austin Hedges is a catcher option other than Bo Naylor. And then Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie. In the rotation, Emmanuel Clase closing out the bullpen. But then their farm system has another potential center fielder that could make it up at the end of next year, at the end of this year, or even early next year in the local kid from around here in my area, Chase DeLauder, who is now currently still an Akron Rubber Duck. So there are options. And I think the Guardians could be a team that, even though they finished 76 and 86 last year, they could be a team that I think could make a lot of noise. A lot of noise, especially if the right players get called up at the right time. The next one I have is the Miami Marlins. Luis Ariz, Josh Bell, Jazz Chisholm, Avisail Garcia, John Birdie. And then Jesus Luzardo, Yuri Perez, Edward Cabrera as far as pitching. And then the bullpen is a little down, but you've also got Sixto Sanchez in the long relief spot there that's a possibility as well. And plus there's the potential of getting Sandy Alcantara back. I think the Marlins are a team that once Alcantara comes back, I think they could do something. And then last but not least, I have the San Francisco Giants. Jung-Hoo Lee in center field, Jairo Estrada at second base, Jorge Soler, Michael Conforto, Mike Yastrzemski with that outfield DH. That's a good combination. And then the pitching with Logan Webb and Jordan Hicks. And then Camilo Doval and the Rogers brothers as the back core of your relief. And even bringing in Amir Garrett. I think that the Giants could be something especially if they get all the players that they need healthy at the right time, I think the Giants could be a sleeper team that, if the Dodgers especially show that there's a couple of little, like, not so great things, I think the Giants could be a team that could slip in and maybe steal a wild card spot and pull some upsets. So here are some of our off-season recap and grades.
I will
Let's
have the
start.
graphic up, by the way.
We will have the graphic up. Some notable teams that we feel were on the not so great: the Athletics, the Angels, and the Rockies, along with the Washington Nationals. All four of those teams ended up getting failing grades.
F.
Meanwhile, we had no A pluses, because nobody in the offseason is perfect. But the closest one was, though they did little, the one major move they did was quite mighty, with the Baltimore Orioles getting Corbin Burns, and the Dodgers, who did a lot, but their a lot was kind of in buying a lot and spending a lot. They ended up at an A minus. Most other teams kind of sat around the B/C range, with a few standouts here and there, and a few things that kind of didn't go so well. And those teams that ended up with D's were kind of those that either lost a major player or just kind of didn't get a lot for what they really were needing to in free agency. In layman's terms. Oh, Ruckus, I think we're now kind of getting ready to wrap up, and it's time to go into the stud and dud of the week. And I'll let you go ahead and take over for it first.
Alright, so for my stud of the week, I have Trey Smith for giving his WWE belt to a kid that they eventually took to safety during the intense moving moment of the shooting. And then my honorable mention is Patrick and Brittany Mahomes visiting the children affected by the shooting at the Chance Parade. Probably seeing a theme here. And then my dud is Chris Jones's agent walking back the idea of the client not leaving the Chiefs due to possible inside information on contract negotiations. Because if you didn't hear during the parade ceremony, he said that he was not leaving the Chiefs. And I saw a report that said his agent was walking back that idea just in case. But I don't know. I think Chris Jones should probably fire his agent if crap like that is happening. But we'll see. Anyways, Spennis, let's go with yours next.
Alright, so my honorable mention stud was Dallas Cowboys defensive end / linebacker Micah Parsons for having a huge celebrity game, scoring 37 points to win the celebrity game MVP. But my stud is Division II Francis Marion's Lauren Taylor for setting the NCAA women's basketball mark for rebounds in a single game with 44 boards in an 85-62 victory over North Greenville. This is across all divisions. Previous D2 record was 36. The D3 record was at 38 boards, and still is. And the Division I record that was truly surpassed by Taylor's effort was at 40 rebounds. The D3 record still being 38 and the D1 record still being 40. It was the D2 record that got shattered. But the overall is at 44 rebounds. My honorable mention dud, I actually will probably go to my actual dud first, with Kenny the Jet Smith in his commentary on the NBA All-Star Saturday night and just how out of touch he really is in talking about the slam dunk contest versus the three-point shootout. We said it back in the Good, Bad, and the Ugly segment. Reggie Miller agrees with my sentiment on this, that the three-point contest is where it is at and where it needs to stay. But the honorable mention, I could not have laughed any harder about this. Former NFL receiver Keyshawn Johnson. Yes. The same one that was saying, just give me the ball. He completely had his quarterbacks mixed up on Undisputed with Skip Bayless and saying that Kirk Cousins was the quarterback of the Minneapolis Miracle. That was actually Case Keenum. Kirk Cousins didn't arrive in Minnesota as a Viking until the offseason after the Minneapolis Miracle happened. So Keyshawn was off by just 1 calendar year. Though that is close, it's not close enough. Not even to count in a game of horseshoes or hand grenades. Ruckus, go ahead and take us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. This is a Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast production. I am Ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus the Menace.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, and as always, leave a like if you liked it. Put a comment down if you have a question about the show or wondering about a certain sports topic about what we talked about in the show, or just what our thoughts are on a certain subject in the sports realm that recently happened. Anyways, this has been Ruckus and the Menace Sports Podcast. Have a good one.
Just a small heads up. We are about a month away from MLB The Show 24. And content could be on the horizon. Still to be determined. But there could be another stretch of content possible. Stay tuned. Deuces.